Well, another year has come and gone, and therefore it's time to do another list of the top games of the year, because that's what we all do. We love to end the year, look back on the year, talk about what was good and what was bad. Now, you know me, I play a lot of backlog games. I'm not really the most up-to-date gamer in the world. So, just like last year, I'm going to do 2 top 5 lists. 5 games that I played that came out at some point, and 5 games I played that actually came out this year. And this year, unlike last year, I actually did play a surprising number of games that released this year. Now, of course, I know you're going to complain because I didn't play this game or that game, but that's my life, okay? I don't play every game. I can't do that. I don't have that kind of time, so this is based on the games I played. That said, I thought It Takes Two was pretty mediocre, so come at me, Game Awards. Well, let's get into it. And before we do, please like and subscribe if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend so that maybe they can see it too, and then they'll also like and subscribe to the channel. It's like a multi-level marketing scheme. That's what I'm trying to turn my YouTube into. If you get 10 people to subscribe, then they'll get 10 people to subscribe, kind of a thing. Okay, to the list. I've always liked sports games, but I really can't be bothered to keep up with them every year. Honestly, I've always preferred the more arcadey takes on sports games anyway. I'm not really a fan of the more hardcore simulation of the kind of mainline sports games. Luckily, there are people making games for people like me, and I got Captain Tsubasa, which is an anime arcade soccer game that I honestly never knew I wanted, but now that I've played it, I am in love with it. I've never seen the anime, but that's actually fine because the game's story mode is apparently the anime, so you just play through the story. It's nothing serious, it's just a kid playing soccer, and he's really good at it. On top of that, there's actually a second story mode. You make a custom player, and you pick one of 4 teams that you take through a World Cup style tournament. Also pretty great. Really enjoyed it. I do have to say though, the gameplay and story was balanced a little too much towards the story. The game almost felt like a visual novel that had occasional soccer games peppered in, where I would have preferred it to go the other way. That said, the story was fun, and the soccer gameplay was super fun. It's completely arcadey. Unfortunately, the single-player mode is too easy, and they don't let you change the difficulty, which I thought was weird, but I still had a blast playing through it. It was exactly what I'd been itching for from a sports game. Coming in at number 5 on the 2021 list is Psychonauts 2, a long-awaited sequel to a classic 3D platforming game. Psychonauts 2 makes up for its dated controls and visuals with a brilliant take on what it would be like to jump into someone's broken mind and help put them back together. This game really is carried by its setting and themes. It was always exciting to see the new minds you would explore as you progress through the game. Pretty much all of them had pretty unique requirements for progression. They all mostly felt totally fresh and unique from a gameplay perspective. It does show its age a bit. I played it on the Xbox One, and holy cow, it ran like really bad. It really ran bad. You can play it, it's playable, but I did try it later on the Series X, and a lot of my complaints with the clunky controls and visuals and all that were kind of solved by a more powerful machine. So if you can, play it on a more powerful machine, but even if you can't play the game, it's quite an experience. Persona 5 is one of the greatest RPGs ever released. It exploded the popularity of the Persona series here in the West, bringing many new fans with its deep gameplay, engaging characters, and dark story. All this acclaim earned it a sequel, but, why do the same game twice? Persona 5 Strikers completely spins the formula on its head, getting rid of the turn-based RPG gameplay, opting instead for an action-focused real-time combat system. I was wary of this at first. I am a huge RPG fan, but man, I loved this game. It works. Still feels like a Persona game. Many of the original game's mechanics were so well adapted to fit this new format, and I gotta say, I almost preferred it to the base Persona game. I think this kind of combat actually fits this series and this game so well. I was so impressed with it. I thought the story was pretty interesting as well, but it doesn't really reach the same heights of the base game. It almost feels like sort of a rehash of the base game. It's still good, but it's not Persona 5. Don't go into it expecting something as groundbreaking as Persona 5. It does kind of feel a little forced. But that doesn't matter, because the gang's all here. It's great playing and seeing everyone again, following them around on their summer vacation tour of Japan. Ratchet and Clank has been around as long as I can remember. Back in the day, I was always a Jak and Daxter guy when they first kind of both came out on the PS2, so I never really played the older games. My first Ratchet and Clank experience was the PS4 one, which I know a lot of people don't find to be a highlight of the series. I enjoyed it pretty well, and that got me to play the PS5 one, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I had heard other people say how next-gen this game felt, and I thought, how could that be? This is like a cartoony-looking kids game. But they're right. This game absolutely shows off the insane next-gen power of the PlayStation 5. No loading times, seamless transitions between planets, between dimensions, between everything, awesome haptic feedback on the controller, incredible sound design, made even better with the 3D audio. The visuals are incredible. Yes, it's a little cartoony, but the particle effects, the color, the lighting, the game just pops. It really feels next gen. Unfortunately, it is still a Ratchet and Clank game, and that's why it's kind of so low on the list. It's a pretty basic story. The characters don't really have a ton of depth, and the gameplay loop is pretty fun, but it's also pretty shallow. It's just shooting people with guns. And I thought this game's gun lacked a lot of kind of the more crazy variety that the series is known for. I haven't played them all, so maybe I'm just expecting too much, but they all felt pretty safe and basic. It's definitely worth playing through. I completed it 100%. Don't overthink these criticisms. It earned its spot on this list. I am a huge Final Fantasy fan, yet somehow I missed the PlayStation 1 games growing up. I mostly had handhelds as a kid, with my first home console after the SNES being a PS2. So I've never been one of those FF7 is so obviously the best Final Fantasy game people. Personally, I think 10 is the best. I still do. Come at me. Let me know in the comments why I'm an idiot. But Titus and Yuna forever. I personally do as well when it comes to Final Fantasy VII. I always thought that those people suffered from nostalgia. This was the first Final Fantasy game that they probably played, and it was the first in 3D, and it was such a jump in technology, and it was amazing at the time. But I think it's that experience that you have that sort of lets it carry with you, and as you look back on it in hindsight, you look back on it more fondly than maybe it deserves. That said, I got the remaster on PlayStation Plus, so I had to play it, and I did, and I was blown away. I was wary at first, again, kind of like with Persona 5 Strikers, at them changing so much about the game, especially the combat. But I loved the gameplay. It's tight. It's a perfect evolution on what Final Fantasy 13 and really 15 tried and mostly failed to do. I know that this remaster is technically only a small portion of the original game, but they've fleshed the world out a lot, and there is so much going on that it did feel like a full game. Again, as someone who's never played Final Fantasy VII, this one felt like a full game and got me excited for what's to come. All that aside, though, what really made this game cemented in my mind the most has to go to both the game's animators as well as the voice actors. Specifically Aerith's. I gotta give Brianna White all the credit. I don't know how she did it, but she brought this character which was completely iconic already, and you know there's so much against her going into it, right? So many expectations, but it delivers. It absolutely delivers. The cutscenes in this game, they're so well done. Her back and forths with Cloud, you absolutely understand why their relationship blossoms in the way it does. This was the closest kind of game I've ever played that got into that realm of it's as good as a movie type stories. And that is saying a lot. I've never been one of those people who think like games can tell a better story than a movie because of the interactive nature. There's so much going against it, but they did so good. Animating, voice acting felt so real and natural. It was just incredible. Graphically, the game is stunning. The soundtrack is so good. The way that they reimagined some of those classic Final Fantasy tracks. Loved the soundtrack. Some parts did feel a little padded. They, I think, over-padded some parts to add some length to the game. And I did think the ending portion dragged a little bit, but whew, this game is a near masterpiece. I am very excited. I'm going to replay it on PS5. They finally let the PlayStation Plus people upgrade for free, so I'm going to pick up the new DLC, play through it again on hard mode. I'm super excited to re-experience the game and experience the next chapter of this game when it finally releases in the year 2050. Not much to say for number 3 here. It's Mario. I've always loved Mario, specifically Mario Galaxy. That might be a controversial statement here, but I prefer the more small, focused levels compared to the sprawling worlds that you explore in, say, Odyssey or the original 64 or Sunshine. 3D World does that. It is all these individual levels. There's a huge amount of stages to play through. The platforming is tight. The graphics are amazing. I love how it looks on the Switch. The levels themselves are unique, fun. They all have special little things. It's hard to go wrong with Mario as it is, but this one really I loved more, I think, than even Odyssey. It may be my favorite Mario game after Galaxy. In addition to the base game, there's also Bowser's Fury. I know everybody else lost their mind over this one because it is this sort of seamless open world. And yeah, that's cool. It didn't feel like anything other than more Mario to me. But I still liked it. It's still a lot of fun. I don't understand the insane hype a lot of people gave to it. Either way, the whole package is absolutely worth your money. I had a blast playing through it. It's so much fun to explore the levels, finding the 3 green stars, the rubber stamps in each level. Catsuit power-up is pretty cool. It's hard to put down. Once you start, it's hard to stop. A lot of games on this list, I've talked about this now, have been carried a lot by their world or presentation or just how immersive they were. More than any of those, Control earns its spot on the list because of its atmosphere and storytelling. It is a slow burn thriller where you are exploring the oldest house, which is the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control. There is a lot of insane crap happening in there. There's a multi-dimensional monster killing everyone. On top of that, these people investigate supernatural things, so as you go, you find household objects. But when you touch them, you touch the rubber duck and it transports you into a mirror dimension where everyone's a duck, except for you, and you're a breadcrumb and the ducks are trying to eat you. It's insane, and they're all awesome. It's really hard to talk about this game because it really is one that needs to be experienced. I don't think I can do it justice just by talking about it. You need to play through it, and try not to know as much as you can. Go in as blind as possible. It's so much fun to explore the world, find all of its little secrets. Being able to play on the PS5 again, the Ultimate Edition works great. The haptic feedback on the controller felt so good. Leveraging the PS5's power for all of its particle effects, the physics engine in this game is insane. Combat's pretty basic. You pretty much just pick things up and throw them at enemies. But you literally anything. You can make anything. You pull chunks of the wall out, you pull any objects off desks, you can throw anything, and the physics engine keeps up. This game ran at a smooth 60 my entire playthrough on the PS5. It is super impressive. It was super addictive. I could not put it down. It's one of those, I have to know what's going to happen next. I have to know. I have to find out. It just keeps you playing. Very binge-worthy and very deserving of its spot on the list. Speaking of games driven by their narrative, oh man, does this one take the absolute cake. You heard me talk about it last year. I told you it'd be back. It is back. Disco Elysium. It's essentially a D&D campaign, but instead of fighting goblins and haggling with wizards, you're fighting with the shattered fragments of your personality. There is so much dialogue and story in this game, and now it's fully voiced. They've re-released the game, they added voices, they added some extra side quest stuff, and it's just better than ever. They took a near-perfect game and made it even nearer perfecter. The voice work is superb. The main narrator guy is so good. It adds such a layer of immersion into a game that already super immersed you into the world so well. you're completely sucked in. There's no way you're not going to love this game. There's so many characters to talk to, areas to explore, facets of your mind to understand. It can definitely be overwhelming at times, but it is worth all of it. The game is so infinitely replayable. You can play so many different builds. There's so many different parts of your mind to focus on and level up. It's such a unique experience as well, playing the different builds. This is a game that I think I will consistently find myself returning to for the years and years to come. It's a genuine diamond in the rough, and everybody should play it. Lots of story games on my list this year. More visual novel than game. I cannot gush about 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim enough. You heard it in my review, you're going to hear it again now. To tell a time travel story using 13 unique, separate protagonists, each with their own storyline that interweaves and jumps between timelines, and to do it as well as they did, the people who wrote this game deserve the Nobel Prize of writing, whatever that is. They are literary heroes, as far as I'm concerned. I can't remember the last time I could sit and play a game for 6+ hours and have it feel like no time passed. I wasted weekends playing this game. If you have even a passing interest in science fiction, you have to play through this game and experience its story. On top of the story, it has an RTS tower defense kind of combat. I loved those as well. This game is the closest to a 5 out of 5 I played all year. Go in as blind as you can. If you do want to hear more, I did do a full review of the video. Go check that out. And finally, the number one game on this list, the number one game I played that came out this year, Shin Megami Tensei 5. Widely regarded as the Dark Souls of RPGs, everyone talks about how hard this game is. Brutally hard, unforgiving. Any random enemy encounter could easily result in a game over. This game continues to refine and elevate the series, proving that classic turn-based RPGs still have a place in the modern world. I adored this game for its mechanics. This is the most gamey game I played all year. Gathering new demons, fusing them into stronger ones, absorbing their essence into my characters so that I can gain their skills or change my elemental strengths and weaknesses. You're always in control of your build, your party, and it always feels like you're progressing towards something, whether it be trying to level up so that you can fuse the next demon that's too high a level currently, or trying to find a specific essence because you want a specific ability to use or a specific elemental resistance for this boss that's giving you a hard time. You always are in control. I really enjoyed the story. It's quite interesting, very philosophical. Unfortunately, it does wait until about 25 hours into the game's 60-hour runtime before you really understand what the story is. There's not much in the way of narrative at the beginning of the game. I could see that be making it tough for people to get drawn in. But for me, the gameplay was more than enough to keep me invested until I got to the story, and then the story also kept me pretty invested. On top of the gameplay, there's these huge, sprawling areas that you can explore with tons of secrets to find, lots of extra strong enemies, lots of side quests that are also pretty interesting. There was, of course, some frustration, some unfair deaths, whatever you want to call it, but that doesn't matter. Once you get over understanding how the game works, it never starts feeling unfair, and you start adjusting and all that. Really, this game was 60 hours of RPG perfection, and if you're a fan of the genre, you have to play this game. So there you go, my top 10 games of the year that I played. What game did you love that didn't make this list? Let me know in the comments below. What was your game of the year? Tell me why I'm wrong. Maybe I just didn't play it. But if I didn't play it, it's because it didn't seem good. Leave a comment. I'm excited for the new year. Already playing a new game that I'm super excited to do a review on. Be on the lookout for that, and I will see you all with the next video.